Hello student. In last lecture we have discussed the parameter, that is types of facilitated diffusion. We are looking for the diffusion process, and we got an idea that diffusion is the most important process which is required in transportation of water in plants. Now this diffusion which takes place in a plant is having three types, as we discussed earlier: uniport, antiport and symport. So through these three methods the diffusion will takes place, and this we called it as a method in which there is no requirement of any energy. So energy is not required in this particular uh, part. Now moving to the next, that is active transport. Now what is active transport? It is the transport of material, say for example water, utilizes energy for transportation. जसं आपण काल बघितलं की सपोज आपल्याला एखाद्या जमिनीवरचं पाणी 5व्या मजल्यावर न्यायचं असेल तर आपल्याला पंप लागेल. वी नीड अ पंप टू ट्रान्सपोर्ट वॉटर फ्रॉम दी ग्राउंड फ्लोअर टू द 5th फ्लोअर. So here also in a active transport we can say there is a requirement of energy. इथे सुद्धा काय लागणार आहे, एनर्जी लागणार आहे. अँड ऑब्वियसली एनर्जी लागणार आहे म्हणजे काय होईल तर जास्त मोठ्या प्रमाणात जे मॉलिक्यूल आहेत ते ट्रान्सपोर्ट केले जाईल, साईजसुद्धा त्याची मोठी असेल. सो स्पेसिफिक मेम्ब्रेन प्रोटीन्स इज रिक्वायर्ड इन अ ॲक्टिव्ह ट्रान्सपोर्ट. दीज प्रोटीन्स आर कॉल्ड पंप्स. सो आपण जसं आपल्या लँग्वेजमध्ये पाणी ट्रान्सपोर्ट करायला पंप लागतो म्हणतो, तसंच इथे ॲक्टिव्ह ट्रान्सपोर्टमध्ये सुद्धा पंप्स लागतात. ट्रान्सपोर्ट सबस्टन्सेस फ्रॉम लो कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन टू हाय कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन. आता बघा या मेथडमध्ये म्हणजे ॲक्टिव्ह ट्रान्सपोर्ट नावाची जी मेथड आहे याच्यामध्ये जे कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन आहे हे लो कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन. सो मॉलिक्यूल ऑफ लो कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन विल मूव टुवर्ड्स दी हाय कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन, म्हणजे लो कॉन्सन्ट्रेशनकडनं हाय कॉन्सन्ट्रेशनकडे मूवमेंट होईल. प्रोटीन्स आर स्पेसिफिक इन नेचर. मग या ट्रान्सपोर्टेशनमध्ये ॲक्टिव्ह ट्रान्सपोर्टेशनमध्ये लागणारं जे प्रोटीन आहे दीज प्रोटीन्स आर स्पेसिफिक इन नेचर अँड इट ट्रान्सपोर्ट लार्ज चार्ज पार्टिकल. म्हणजे जे मोठे पार्टिकल्स असतात असे मोठे लार्ज पार्टिकल्स जे आहेत त्याला हे ट्रान्सपोर्ट केल्या जाईल. नाव हिअर यू कॅन सी दिस इज नथिंग बट दी स्ट्रक्चर्स. Here we can say that the large molecules are present on the outer side. वरच्या साईडला तुम्ही बघाल तर मोठ्या प्रमाणात पार्टिकल्स आहे. अँड बिलो यू कॅन सी द स्मॉलर पार्टिकल इज देअर, अँड इन बिटवीन दॅट यू कॅन सी द येलो कलर्ड स्ट्रक्चर इज गिवन. दॅट येलो कलर्ड स्ट्रक्चर इज द प्रोटीन स्ट्रक्चर. Now again you can see the ATP molecule is there, and when this ATP molecule gives energy, then only what happens, this molecule will transport it to the inner side of that particular membrane. So this is nothing but the mechanism which takes place in the transportation, that particularly active type of transport we can say. So here you can see again you can see what happens here. The ATP will come across and it will provides the energy, and the ATP is converted into ADP, and as it will provide energy the molecule will get transported towards the inner side of the membrane through the protein. Now again here you can see the process will continuous process. What happens, it will use ATP. Through ATP energy will liberated or it is utilized and molecule will move. Now what will be the significance of this particular process? This process utilizes energy for transportation. Then the specific membrane protein is required. Not all the membrane protein works over here. The specific membrane protein is required in this process. These proteins are called pump. Transport substance from low concentration to high concentration, and charged particles are to be converted. Now here we can see transport substance from low concentration to high concentration is the most important concept here. Now these are nothing but the molecules having the large structure. So here we can see this will move. Now comparison of different transport system. So we have seen passive transport system in last lecture and active transport system in today's part. So we can do the comparison between these two. Now what is the parameter? Say for example facilitated diffusion and active transport. What is the difference in this? Required special membrane protein. In a simple diffusion we can say there is no requirement of special membrane protein, but in facilitated diffusion and active transport there is a specialized type of protein is required. Then highly selective property, highly selective is not suitable for simple diffusion, but facilitated diffusion and active diffusion is having the property like highly selective. They are not allowed, or they will not allow the all particles to transport. Then transport saturates. So simple diffusion cannot transport the saturates or saturated material, whereas facilitated diffusion and active transport support this parameter. Now uphill transport is not supported by simple diffusion, whereas facilitated diffusion and active transport will support this uphill transport, whereas requirement of ATP or energy in a simple diffusion we can say there is no any requirement of ATP, whereas in facilitated diffusion also there is no requirement of ATP, but in active transport there is a requirement of energy, or we can say ATP is required. Transport large size of molecule is not possible with simple diffusion and facilitated diffusion, whereas it is possible with the active transport structure. Now when talk about pumps or requirement of pump, in simple diffusion there is no any pump required, facilitated diffusion there is no any pump required, but in active transport there is a requirement of pump. Now moving to the next topic, that is plant water relationship. It is the most important parameter in our syllabus. Water is essential for physiological activities of the plant. So we can say that every plant or every living organism on the earth also required water for their different activities, particularly talking about the physiological activities. Then water, or we can say this, it is a medium for most of the substances to dissolve, as we called water as a universal solvent. Then protoplasm contains water as a major part of molecules dissolved, and the most important thing, water percent in plant varies. For example, in woody or in a soft, the material, the water content is variable in this particular portion of the plant. Now this is nothing but the water. Now talking about the water potential, there are different terminologies which is required in or required to be considered in water potential. Say for example, the water potential is given by psi W and solute potential is given by psi S, whereas pressure potential is given by psi P. So these are nothing but the different terminologies which is used in a water potential study or the formulation of water potential. Now water molecule possesses a kinetic energy. Greater the concentration of water in system, the greatest of its kinetic energy. Now here we can say there will be two beakers having the water. Now in one water you can say the sugar is added or the concentration of sugar is more, whereas in another the concentration of sugar is less. So we can say that the greater concentration of water is having the higher kinetic energy. So the beaker number 2 is having the greatest kinetic energy than the beaker 1. Now again here we can go for the experiment. In this chamber a semi-permeable membrane is kept and A and B, these are the two portions were prepared. Now both these having the same concentration of water, A and B is having the same concentration of water, whereas A is having a little bit addition of the molecules. So these molecules added to the section or the portion A, and the B is kept as it is. Now we know that the A section is having the concentration of water less than that of B. So what will happen here? The water will move. Where the question is there, where is the concentration of water is more? Obviously in B section. Where the kinetic energy of water is more? Obviously in B section. Where the water potential is more? Obviously it is in B section. Now due to these three possibilities, or due to these three structures, water starts to move from B portion or B section to the A section. So movement will take place from B to A, and it will maintain the potential, or it will maintain the concentration of this particular water in both sections. Now water potential will be given as water moving from higher kinetic energy to the lower kinetic energy. Movement of water from higher molecule to lower molecule area is also known as the water potential. Movement of water from higher water potential to lower water potential area is also known as water potential. Now the main thing, that the magnitude of lowering potential due to dissolution of solute is called solute potential. Now in simple way, what we can say, the solute which is added in a water gives rise to the parameter that we call it as a solute potential. Now here again you can see the beaker is there, and in this beaker we have added water along with the molecules. Say for example sugar, salt or other dissolving molecule is added to the water. Now what happens? The potential of that particular water will change. Before the water potential is different, and now the water potential is variable. By the addition of solute or by the addition of sugar molecule, the potential of that molecule or of that water will change. The more solute molecule, the lower solute potential. So as we increase the number of solute molecule or add a solute, the solute potential will low. So in a pure water the solute potential is high. Now here again take this look at the diagram where the cell is shown, cell membrane, plasma membrane, nucleus and the organelle like chloroplast is shown in this particular diagram. Now when this cell is kept in a water, what happens? The pressure will act on that cell and the cell will become turgid. Now why it happens? It happens due to the different concentration of the water and that particular cell. So the turgid cell will seen after some times. In plants, negative potential in water plays a major role in water transport. So the concept here is required to be discussed, that is negative potential. The water potential of pure water is taken to be 0. Pressure potential is denoted as psi p. Water potential of cell is affected by both solutes and pressure potential. So pressure potential and the solute, these are the most important thing which is to be considered in a pressure potential. So with this part we stop here in today's lecture. In upcoming lecture we are going to discuss the next parameter, that is the osmosis.